Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. There is a message that I want to share with you guys, and this message, it comes from a translation of a message that I received. And the translation of that message reads like this. Hello, my brother, how are you? Can you please post my own story as hidden identity? I am a young woman who is only aged 27 years old, and I have 3 kids. When I entered into my second marriage, I had already gotten 1 child from my previous marriage. Then I had 2 kids. I don't know if I had these kids with the man that I was now staying with. I truly do not even understand at all. What happened is that my brother, after my husband had started cheating on me, I was really confused. I didn't know what to do anymore. I then found myself leaving my own country, and I then came to Botswana, where I then started staying with my own cousin sister. But it seemed as if bad luck was really chasing me around, because when I started staying with my cousin sister, then my cousin sister's husband, she started doing a lot of stuff whereby I saw that this man, he really wanted to sleep with me, and this was like the worst thing that I could ever do, sleeping with my cousin sister's husband. I then said to my cousin sister, is there any other place where I can get a job? And I didn't want to tell her that this is what her husband was doing, since we were only sharing the same room. Sometimes a husband, what he will do is that in the middle of the night, he would actually get off from the bed and he would come and sit on this other bucket as if he was watching TV. And whilst he would be doing that, he would actually remove his short and pull out his manhood, and he will start playing with his manhood whilst he would make sure that I was seeing everything that he was doing. This was just too much for me, and I then saw that it was far much better for me to leave my cousin sister before I had created a lot of trouble for her. I then started staying with this other girl whom my cousin sister had asked for her to stay with me. When I was staying with her, this girl, my brother, I just saw that all that she had done, like when she came to Botswana, was to look for men. She didn't like working. She expected that men were supposed to work for her. And when I was staying with her, this affected me a lot as someone that was not working. And when I started staying with her, when I saw that all the guys that she was dating, all of those guys, they were giving her a lot of money. When I would go out trying to look for work, and when I would return back home without having anything, this girl, sometimes she would not cook anything or buy anything for us to cook, because she would say that I am not going to use my own money, the money that a man will give me after spending the whole night just using my body as he pleases. Then you are here just complaining, and now you want me to buy food. She said that everyone had to be their own man. So my brother, what I did is that I then started following everything that she was doing, and I found myself dating one of her ex-boyfriends. That is how I started. When I started dating an ex-boyfriend, the guy was just a womanizer. Within a couple of days, I then found myself really heartbroken, and this girl seduced me into dating more men. So I was now like dating guys. Either these guys, I would have met them online, or I was meeting them physically there in Botswana. So when I was online, there is this other Facebook group. It is all about people from Zim that are in Botswana. So if you are single, you can find yourself on that Facebook group. Whilst I was there, there was another guy. This guy, he then said that he had some connections with people that were from Oman, that were looking for Zim ladies that can work for them as their maid. And I fell for that guy's trick, and it seemed as if this thing, he has been doing it for a very long time, ever since I have gotten myself separated from him. I don't know if he is still doing this thing, but what I know is that the profile that he was using at the time when I met him online, everything was very different. On the profile picture, there was a man, a handsome man, with like standing in a garage that was full of cars, like trying to show the world that he has made it in love, like trying to show the world that he is someone that has made it in life. And this is what attracted me to him, but not like I wanted to date him the first time that I looked at his pictures. No, I thought that this was a man that was going to assist me so that I can get out of Africa quickly. Whilst I was speaking with this guy, he then gave me a WhatsApp link and he told me that I was supposed to join this other WhatsApp group. So in that group, he was always posting work opportunities from different parts, either from Africa, mainly South Africa and Mozambique, and as well as UAE and Oman. And when I was speaking with him, he said that if I was willing to go to Oman, this was quite easy. And he asked me about my documents, and I said, unfortunately, I do not have anything right now. When I spoke with this guy, I then asked him if he was willing, like, to do everything for me like he had promised me, because I didn't have a birth certificate and I didn't have an identity card, so there was a lot of money that was going to be needed. But this guy then promised me that he was going to do everything for me. He even sent some money for me, and he was sending this money from Zim. So I then took that money and I got onto the bus and I traveled to Zim. Ladies, always be aware, like when you meet someone online, you have to make sure that you know what their intentions with you, because this guy, he seemed to be someone who was just helping me, but at the end of the day, he used me, Brother Nashi. When I arrived in Harare, he came and picked me up, and this was like the first time ever traveling in a car that was really beautiful. This car, inside of it, it felt like I was traveling with an aeroplane. When we arrived at his place, I then found out that he didn't even have a very big space even with the car that he was driving. He said that as a hustler, he does not need a very big space, as well as he didn't have a family, so there was no need for him to have a very big car. I stayed with this guy whilst we would go each and every morning, going to go and try to apply again for the birth certificate. This process was quite long, my brother. I ended up staying at this guy's for the whole month, and each and every day we would go out because there were some documents that were missing. But this guy, he was taking care of me. He then said that since you have a child, I know that you are very stressed. What I'm going to be doing is that I will be giving you money, and by the time that you would have gone to Oman, you are going to give me back my money. What happened is that this guy, when he told me that he was going to be assisting me with money, I was really happy, and I was such a fool, my brother, that whenever he would give me money, I would actually write the money down, and I would say that when I would have traveled to Oman, then I am going to pay you back. And this guy, something else about him was that he was a party guy. Each and every night he would go out. During the first days, I would say, no, I am fine, you can go alone. But with time, he encouraged me to go with him. And finally, on the night that I went with him, and at that time, me and him, my brother, we had started to create this other bond whereby you could feel that there was always this other tension in the room, and simply because we were two adults that were staying together, so something was about to happen. We went out on that night, my brother, and when we returned, this guy, he had made me to drink alcohol, and this was the first time ever in my life drinking the alcohol. And after drinking this, I then started to feel for him, and we slept together. That is how I fell pregnant for him. By the time that I had returned back home, I then found out that I was pregnant for this guy. I didn't tell him. And when I returned back to his place, that was when I told him that this is what had happened when we had slept together. This guy, my brother, he then started refusing to sleep with me, yet he kept on like manipulating my mind, telling me that he loved me a lot. And since he was no longer sleeping with me, I even started developing strange feelings for other men. But at the end of the day, what I found out was that this guy, what he was doing is like each and every time when we would go go out, there are those pills, like they call it sweets. These pills, they are there to make a woman want to make love. You would crush those pills and you would put those pills in a juice, and each and every time that we would be drinking that juice, I would just feel like I want to make love to someone. Then the guy will say, okay, let us go out. And by the time that we would have gone out, there would always be a friend that we would be hanging around with. What he started doing is that whenever we would be hanging around with his several male friends, he would pretend as if he was drunk so that his friend can start proposing love to me. And I would agree, since I'll be feeling something strange in my body. I did this, my brother. I slept with different men whilst I was pregnant for him, and these guys, they would pay him at the end of the month. The reason as to why I say that these guys, they were paying him, there was this other guy, I think that he didn't know exactly whether he was supposed to be giving me the money or if he was supposed to give him the money directly. This was after I had fallen pregnant for the second time. This guy, when I fell pregnant for him twice, this happened in 2 years. The first year I fell pregnant, then the following year, like when I was still breastfeeding, I then found out that I had fallen pregnant for him. And by the time that I fell pregnant for him the second time, that was when he started treating me in a very bad way, and I then decided to just run away from this guy because of the way that he was treating me. And I am sure that he is still doing this evil thing that he was making me to do. So on this other particular night, when we had gone out, I then found out that we were supposed to hang out with this other guy who was quite an old man. This guy, he then started speaking with me, and we then went out like I always did. We went to this other guest house. Whilst we were at that guest house, then that guy, he then said that he wanted to sleep with me, but he was not sure how much he was supposed to give me. I said, what do you mean how much you are supposed to give me? Because I thought that this was just like having a one night stand. And he said, didn't your boss say that you are supposed to get money from me? So when he said that your boss, I didn't like tell him that this was like a man that I was staying with. But when he mentioned that this guy, he was like my boss, and this guy, what he was doing is that he sources out women to these very rich men that hang around him all the times. And most of these women, usually they are very young. Sometimes when we would go to the club, I would actually find that my husband to be, he would have invited a strange young woman. Most of these women, they will be like your university going students, like their age will be somewhere around from 19 up to 21. And these women, they were always nervous. Some of them, they would actually walk away before we would even start drinking. When I found out that this is what this guy had been doing to me, even though I didn't have a plan with my life, I then decided, my brother, to just leave this guy. And when I left him, he never even bothered to look for me. Right now, my kids are suffering. I am now currently working in South Africa as a maid, but this guy, with all the money that he has never bothered to look for me again. But what I know for a fact is that this guy, he is still hunting for young, desperate women. I just want people to be very careful when you get involved like online with people that you do not know, because these men usually that are online, they will be looking for their next victims. And as for me, when he met me, I was really desperate, and he pretended as if he wanted to assist me, but he ended up using me. 2 kids later, that was when I just decided to walk away. Oh, dear listeners, right there was a message that I received, and we had to give you this translation.